think I would, even a 1 to 10 million chance, I don't think I'd be willing to take that risk. I thought that was he actually liked that example, maybe because it had to do with guns, I don't know. So the most important thing here is, using this magic quadrant, coming up with a set of guidelines, a set of rules, a set of questions, right? You need to figure out where to focus your energy, where to focus the resources, the limited resources that you have. So remember back on slide 3, where I said, it's not completely about your developers, right? So you don't want to fall into the trap of thinking that all of your source code is built by your developers. You have source code coming from a variety of places, right? The actual slice that's coming from your in-house development is probably pretty small. You're probably using a lot of open source software. You're probably using a lot of legacy software. In fact, I bet if you train your developers today and you had an impeccable security in your software development lifecycle process, how long of a process or how long of a time span is it going to be before that software becomes a legacy software which is running your business applications today? So even if you were to actually implement a full security in the SDLC, it's going to be a long time before that becomes the core business software. Right? So everyone thinks, oh, it's the developer, it's the developer. Well, it's more than just a developer. It's open source. It's all that legacy code that you no longer have the employees there that know anything about it. Maybe it was written in COBOL, a language that hardly anyone knows these days. And you have your outsourced application. Why do you possibly want to pay for software that's not secure? But how do you validate it's secure? How do you know you're getting secure software from your outsources? And this last column, this package managed through vendor, this is actually a piece of software that you can't, source code analysis really isn't going to help you. You really have to be trusting the vendors, and you have to be asking them the right questions. You have to be asking them the questions of, hey, are you secure? What are the artifacts that prove that you're secure? Can you show them to me? You really need to be asking those vendors that question. So how do you fit source code analysis into each one of these silos? Well, for development, it's pretty straightforward, right? You start building it into your lifecycle. You come up with the appropriate guidelines, the appropriate rules, the appropriate security requirements, the appropriate analysis process, and you make that part of your SDLC. You have control over that. For open source, you really don't have any control over it. You have no idea who these people are that wrote this code. Well, actually, you might know 1 or 2 of them. But overall, you really have no idea. And I go back to the OpenOffice example, right? It's a very common open source application, right? Filled with malicious code. Now, playful malicious code, you actually have to go in and, I'm not saying OpenOffice is bad. And then you have your legacy stuff. Well, you still have the source code for the legacy stuff, right? So you can actually still do source code analysis on it. You can figure out where your risk is. You can figure out what your risk is. You can figure out if you want to do anything about that particular risk. And your outsourced applications, like I said earlier, you want to make sure that you are putting into your contract. You want to put language in there that guarantees well, actually I guess you can't guarantee it, but you have to give some level of confidence that you're getting secure source code from your outsourcers. So if we find a security issue, who's going to fix it? When is it going to be fixed? Who's going to pay for it? What was your security model? Has the application been assessed by a third party? These are all questions that you need to be asking. It's really terrible when you start getting old and you start backing up to read this stuff. So when you start looking at your source code and you're exposed to all this information, has anybody ever seen the results from any sort of a source code analysis, whether it be manual or automated? Is it a lot of information? Too much information? Too much or just right?
Too much.
Yeah. Oh, it's a ton of information. Right. So you need to be able to take a step back, and you got to have what I like to consider these different lenses, these different views on it. Right. And a couple of very common buckets here would be, I want to know what all of my application security vulnerabilities are. I don't want all the noise. Right. I just want the proven this is a problem type of lens. I want to be able to see my cross-site scripting problems. I want to see the data coming into the application, going down one of those roads, right, and leaving the application where I know that there's no validation mechanism in between. I want someone to show me that. I want to be able to say, hey, there's buffer overflows, input-output validation problems, SQL injection, access control, error handling, logging, right, all those OWASP top 10 type of problems plus a whole lot more. I want one single lens that's going to show me all that information. I also want another lens, depending on what you really care about, on telling me, hey, do I have any data loss indicators? Right? Am I leaking data? Where is all of my data going? Is it being encrypted? Am I taking the right steps to ensure my data is protected? And then the last lens is, I want to be able to just, look at those results and have them all, I want someone just to tell me, hey, yeah, okay, you're PCI compliant. Or, these are the areas where, we have discovered possible vulnerabilities, that make you non-PCI compliant. It's a wish list, okay? Probably a long way from actually getting something like that. See, I want to talk about SCA a little bit, and because with source code analysis, these are the types of things that you want to be able to identify, in your software. And I'm going to go back to this whole manual versus automated process and the combination of, I think it has to be a manual review with automated tools. Now, static analysis is very good at detecting certain types of problems. Access control is not one of them, right? The human brain is very, very good at detecting access control problems, right? Static analysis doesn't do a very good job with logic problems. Right, so when you combine the human brain says, okay, yeah, they have a data access control problem here at this end node. Right? So then you take what your human brain has figured out, you plug it back into your automated tools, right? And now all of a sudden you can get all of the paths through the code, right, that are vulnerable at that call. Right? And that's the beauty of using the human brain with static analysis, which equals source code analysis in my book. So, the things that you want to be able to, if you're using grep, and if you're using grep to find that, that MD5 call in your code, it might be a problem, it might not be a problem, you have no idea, okay? Until you actually look at the data flow, right, you don't know that, okay, well, yeah, they're actually, here they're using MD5 to validate the integrity of some object. Here they're using MD5 to secure the, to actually hash a password, a critical password, right? In one case it's good, in one case it's very bad, right? grep isn't going to tell you that. Okay, off my high horse. So anyhow, so you want to be able to identify, types of problems like this, access control problems. Where are your access control mechanisms, right? Where's your functional access control? Where's your data layer access control? Where's your presentation layer access control? Do you have environmental level access control? You want to be able to tell, hey, am I sending out emails that I don't know about? Am I opening up sockets to other systems that I don't know about? Am I receiving communications that I don't know about? You want to be able to identify all these places in your code. Malicious code, that's a whole nother category. Malicious code cannot be detected in an automated fashion. It just simply can't be. You can use the results from automated tools to be able to detect malicious code, right? But it's still a very manual process. And that's, like I said, it's a whole other topic. It would be very nice if you could actually go in and find all the malicious code in an application by pressing a button. Input-output validation. Applications, they take input. That's what they do. They take input, they crunch it, and they show user something. Right? You have to be able to follow all those paths through the code. You have to understand which paths are risky and which paths aren't. Cryptography. Am I using the right cryptography? Am I using it in the right places? Am I not using it in the right places? And then the last one is database use. There's a whole bunch more. Obviously you want to know where all that user data is going into the queries and what the mechanisms are. Are they stored procedures? Are they